We remember the Roman Empire for its legions, its aqueducts, and its gladiators. But behind the marble and steel was a hidden empire, an empire of the mind. Rome's greatest weapon wasn't the sword, it was the systematic perfection of psychological torture, designed not just to defeat its enemies, but to utterly break their will to exist. The terror of the Roman war machine went far beyond the battlefield. They engineered sophisticated techniques to control populations, erase their enemies from history, and turn public spectacle into a weapon of mass psychological trauma. This wasn't random brutality. This was a calculated science of fear, a state-sponsored system for dominating the human spirit. What you're about to discover is the Roman playbook for absolute control. What is worse than being killed? For the Romans, it was being unborn. They perfected a punishment known as damnatio memoriae, the damnation of memory. This was more than execution. It was the systematic erasure of a person from reality itself. When an emperor or a powerful enemy of the state was condemned, Roman authorities would launch a terrifyingly thorough campaign to delete them from history. Their statues were pulled down and recarved. Their names were chiseled off public inscriptions. Their faces were scratched from family portraits. Their laws were repealed, and their memory was declared a curse. Imagine the psychological impact. It was a message to every citizen that not only can the state kill you, but it can make it so you were never even here. It could wipe out your entire existence, leaving a ghost-shaped hole in the fabric of history. This wasn't just punishment for one man. It was a soul-chilling threat to anyone who dared to challenge the power of Rome. It institutionalized the idea that the state had power not just over your life, but over reality itself. To the Roman people, the triumph was the ultimate celebration, a glorious parade for a victorious general. But to their conquered enemies, it was the final act of psychological demolition. The triumph was not a parade. It was a meticulously crafted ritual of humiliation. At the head of the procession, for all of Rome to see, were the captured enemy leaders, kings, queens, and chieftains. Stripped of their finery, they were chained and dragged through the streets, forced to walk before the very general who had destroyed their civilization. The crowds would mock them, spit on them, and pelt them with refuse. The conquered people's sacred religious objects, their royal treasures and their weapons were paraded as props in a Roman spectacle. The message was brutally clear. Your gods are weak, your culture is our trophy, and your power is an illusion. After the parade, the enemy leaders were taken to the Mamertine prison, where they were ritually strangled in the dark. The destruction of their armies was just the beginning. The triumph was the system Rome used to break their spirit, ensuring that even in defeat, their humiliation would be absolute and eternal. Rome's psychological warfare wasn't just reserved for its enemies, it was ruthlessly applied to its own legions to forge them into an instrument of perfect obedience. The most terrifying example was a punishment known as decimation. If a unit was found guilty of cowardice or mutiny, the legion was forced to participate in an act of systematic, self-inflicted terror. The disgraced cohort was divided into groups of 10. Each group drew lots, and the soldier who drew the short straw was brutally beaten to death by the other 9 men in his group. His own comrades, men he had fought and bled with, were forced to become his executioners. Think of the psychological genius of this horror. It didn't just punish the guilty, it made every man a potential executioner of his friend. It shattered bonds of trust and replaced them with absolute terror of the Roman command structure. It wasn't about justice, it was about control. Decimation was a clear message to every soldier. The legion is more important than your life, and your loyalty to Rome must be greater than your loyalty to the man standing next to you.
It was a system that used terror to purify the army, ensuring that every man who survived was unbreakably loyal and pathologically afraid of failure.